Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Give me a second. This is only my second time using um this live stream stuff with um what am I trying to say? Why is the chat not open? I'm trying to There we go. Okay. All right. So, okay. So this is just cleanup. Um Coco or Ira, do you see anything? Do you see the Okay, so Josh is there. So I see somebody there. Hi, Josh. Okay, so I just need to. Oh, it's showing up on my thing. I don't need to see. That's what I didn't remember from the last time. It's showing up in my feed, so I don't need to go to YouTube. All right, good. Great. So, um, I welcome, 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 welcome. I am Kim Creighton. I Yeah, I really don't want to spend much time talking about me. I really want to get to work. So I'm just going to start because there's so much that I want to get to in this work. And I just want to, yeah, I love my glasses too. Thank you. I finally, see, this is how we get off track, but I love it. I finally, use one of those services because I was paying with my lenses over $600 for frames. And now that I don't have health insurance, I can't do that. So someone sent me a link, and these frames were only $9, and the lenses with the frames were only 70 bucks. Freaking 70 bucks. And this is oh my god, this is a good segue into this work because this is an example of there are great options out there. People don't know how to use them or the options we have. We're sick of having to make moral and ethical decisions about them. And so this is what Life Beyond the Supremacy Myth is about. So I'm just going to start this presentation and we'll go from there. So, what is Life Beyond the Supremacy Myth? The work is building a world where you don't have to make constant moral and ethical decisions just to use the products, services, and systems that maintain our daily lives. Who's the target audience? It's white folks, but it's not just white folks. It's just white folks because you benefit most from systems, institutions, and policies rooted in the myth of white supremacy. You are the best positioned to dismantle it, and yet you're the least equipped to do that. So this is why I focus my part of Life Without Beyond the Supremacy Myth on training and modeling for white people how to build a consistent, demonstrated anti-racist practice. Because without that, all of this stuff that you're seeing in the world right now, nothing changes. If we switching out leadership, we've done it before. It doesn't change. It's all you cannot build something that is rooted in justice, equity, and liberty on the foundation of something that is exploitative, coercive, discriminatory, and rooted out of supremacy. Why least equipped? The myth is designed to make its own existence invisible to the people it benefits most. And you're seeing the conversations now. I don't know if you've been paying attention to some of the political stuff with Jasmine Crockett. Also, if you watched the NCAA Final Four game yesterday and how Gino responded to Don Staley yesterday after beating UConn, there is you white folks don't see what they're part of, what they're complicit in, and what they actually weaponize against other people. You don't have the capacity to see that, and you need to build that. The ecosystem, the scaffold, it's a scaffold practice environment. I have built a whole ecosystem. It's not just this, it's things that feed into each other that will fundamentally, I need white people to always be asked to do two things. You need to develop a strong why, because without a strong why, you this is why allyship doesn't work. Without a strong why, you don't do the work. So things get hard and you find reasons not to do the work. Um, The second thing is I need white folks to always be asking, what am I missing? Because you're missing a hell of a lot. And it's the things that you're missing that's causing the harm. And this event is called the practice. And oh, wait a minute, I said the ecosystem. Yeah, I talked about that. And so this event is called the practice. So every quarter, I want to come to and do some a free event where we're doing the real work. We go deeper, and it gives you an understanding of what the work is inside the ecosystem if you want to move forward. Today's format, there's a game we're going to play. It's a card game, but because we're online, it's a slide game, but it's a card game. The more you know, card game, and it's real scenarios submitted by real people. 3 rounds, and one question underneath all of this is, what am I missing? And Josh, you're going to remember some of this stuff because you've had to vet some of these respondents. And I just say this right quick. I'm going to want to give Josh a kind of round of applause because his role for the last, I know, since the pandemic has been to vet any correspondence I receive so that they don't harm me. So anything that comes with racist words or somebody trolling or whatever, he sees it first so that I don't get it. He's also created a script in my email to ensure that I don't get it. This is work. This is work. What this work is, and this is what people need to. It's not, no King's Day is whatever that is, but that's not the work. The work is getting your hands dirty and ensuring that people like me um actually are able to safely do this work. And that also includes, and I always have to say it, paying us, because how am I supposed to? I don't have a quote unquote 9 to 5 job. Nobody's gonna hire me because the first time they have a meeting that should have been an email, I'm definitely gonna tell them this should have been a goddamn email. So I just wanted to go on, talk about that a little bit because that is the work. When there are volunteer opportunities in this space or with other people who are doing this kind of work, this is what a co-conspirator is. It's not again having a sign, wearing a pussy hat. That's not the work. That's allyship. I don't do allies. I do co-conspirators. Um, and so if you're not willing to do the work, to make mistakes, to learn from it, to learn how to apologize and make amends, you're not ready for this work. And which means to me that you're not safe, period. And there's so many of you who are not safe who want to be safe. So many of you who are quote unquote good white people who don't know what to do next. And so, where are we now? Whether you found this through one of my social media posts or you've been watching this work for a while, you're in the right place. This work has sharpened and the direction is so clear now. So we're gonna about to play this game. And so it's called the More You Know game. So keep that in mind, the more you know. So there are 3 rounds in each game, and we're gonna just play one. I think I could under a different circumstance, I think I could do 2, but I want to use you as my guinea pig. So at the end of this, we're gonna kind of debrief what this whole process was like, so I can learn from it and how we could do do things differently. So there are gonna be 3 rounds, and each round has prompts. There's a prompt called Spot the Pattern. Because if you know my work, the pattern is white folks can only be cast as hero or victim, never the villain. So you're going to spot the pattern. You're going to name the cost. What is that cost of white people always being cast as hero or victim and never the villain? And you're going to try to do something instead. And this also, like Josh I see in the thing he mentioned, the newsletter. This is also how the newsletter is set up. Spot the pattern, name the cost, try this instead. This is practice. If any of you have been around children, you don't even have to have children. Somebody's been around children. They don't just go from rolling over to walking. There's a process that has to happen. They have to practice. They have to practice rolling over. Then they have to practice scooting. And then they have to practice getting on their knees and crawling. This is a practice. And for some reason, folks think having an anti-racist practice is something that you just desire and it just happens. No, it's called a practice for a reason. So all the prompts, keep in mind, are from the same scenario. These scenarios came from questions that I asked when I was doing Straight No Chaser advice column. And so These are people who sent me questions to help them, give them advice on how to navigate uncomfortable professional environments. And that is also what this when I'm working with white people, I this is about profession. We're gonna keep it in the business professional space because um getting too personal in YouTube chat and all that, it's not appropriate. Um there's no way for me to hold space for any trauma or triggering that happens personally. So this work will stay in the professional space, but you cannot live supremacy, coercion, discrimination, and exploitation free at work and not do that at home as well. So you will see once you practice the professional how your personal changes. So you're gonna post your responses in the chat as you go. At first I was like, oh, we'll wait to the end, but I'm a neurodivergent person. When the thought comes in my head, I gotta put it out. So you can type your question, your responses in the chat, and then I will after each round I'll check in briefly. It's gonna be a brief, and then at the end of the three rounds, we're gonna do a full debrief. And then just remember, there are no right answers. This is not a competition, and your responses are yours. Um, be mindful, and I don't want you to um try to like hold yourself down. If you have a thought or a feeling that you feel like you need to perform, like you're concerned about what you write in the thing, note that, because that's important, because those are the moments that you're performing. So with that, we're going to get started playing The More You Know. Put a Can you put a thumbs up in the chat if you're ready to go? I'm trying to figure out how to engage with this chat thing because it seems like so when I'm on stage I can see people like in, but here I'm just like ah. Or if you can't find the thumbs up, just say I'm ready, something, so I know that people are that you're engaged here. All right. Okay. So let's go. So the first we're gonna do round one, right? And it's called thank you. Can't find that's what I figured. I was like, maybe they couldn't find the damn thing. So that's why I was like, let's just stay ready. So spot the pattern. This is round where this is a crisis email. So a team member sends an email to 10 colleagues that clearly indicates that they're in crisis. Leadership escalates to HR. The response: delete the email, check on the person, refer them to EAP, tell the team they are okay, keep it confidential. The situation is contained, the person is accounted for, the team moves on. Name the cost. What was the first reaction when you read that? Not what you thought first, but what you felt. Sit with it for a minute, and I'm gonna set a little alarm for me and 30 seconds, and just sit for it for a minute, and then write in the thank you for responding to that employee assistance program. So write what immediately just comes to mind. Okay, I'm gonna give you about 15 more seconds. Okay, try this instead. Imagine you are one of the 10 people who received the email. You delete as instructed. You are told your colleague is okay. The next morning, you're back in the meeting with them. Write down honestly what you are carrying into that meeting that no one has addressed. All right, about 10 more seconds. Okay, what I want to do, because I'm looking at this, if you could, before you respond the next time, because going to round two, put R2 at the beginning of your question. So when we go back and scroll through it, we all know that this was the first round, and then put round two, just put R2 before you respond, so we'll know um um which ones they are. And then when we go back, we won't be so confused. So now we're about to enter round two. We're spotting the pattern now. The response was coordinated, respectful, and efficient. It also asked 10 people to delete evidence of a colleague's pain, perform normalcy, and hold what they witnessed alone. The person in crisis returned to a team that had been instructed to act like it never happened. The leaders who escalated did everything the system asked and still felt the response was blah. What that feeling was accurate. Someone followed every protocol correctly and still knew it wasn't enough. What comes up for you when you sit with that gap between doing what's right, doing the right thing, no, doing it right and doing what's right? Um, does it does any part of you recognize the difference between the response that protects the organization and one that actually supports the person or the people? Thank you, DL Major, for putting that R2 there, because at least I know. And then walk to the sun, put R1. So now I know that that goes above that. Thank you. See, I need those little breaks, visual breaks. Okay, I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds because now we're getting a little deeper. All right. So think about the time when your organization's official response to something difficult was technically correct, but left people without what they actually needed. Write down what the gap between what was offered and what was needed, and then name that gap. What is that? What would you call that gap between what was offered and what was actually needed? Wait a minute. Are you not seeing the slides? Because I just went to YouTube. Tell me, are you seeing slides or not? Okay. Okay, but they're slightly delayed. Okay. All right. Because when I go to YouTube, I don't see it on the page. So maybe I don't know. All right. All right. Yep. Yellow slide. Yep. Thank you. Major's that detail person. I love it. Okay. So now we're going to go into round three. So make sure you go round three. So the system had a protocol for a crisis. It did not have a protocol for community. 10 people witnessed something real. They were asked to contain it, and they were given no language, no space, or no support for what they were now carrying. Psychological safety is not built in the absence of crises. It is built on how crises are dealt with when they happen. This organizational team found out in real time what was prioritized. You now know you now know that 10 people absorbed something with no infrastructure to process it, and one person returned to a room full of people had been asked to perform like it didn't happen. What shifted in you between round one and now? And what would it cost your organization to build something that could actually hold a moment like this? All right, I'll give you about 10 more seconds. That's fine, MX Alba. That's fine. I like your honesty. All right. And that's why you're here to do the work. All right. This is the last. Imagine this organization committed to building genuine psychological safety before the next crisis arrives. Not a policy, not an EAP referral link, the actual practice. What would have to exist that does not now? Write down your first honest answer. That is the gap between what the organization says it values and what it actually is built for. Okay. So let me go here. Give me a second. I'm trying to bring my guest. Coco, just come. I was about to text you. Just come back online. Yep, there you go. Because just come back up. There we go. So now I'm gonna go back to the chat. So what we have is the debrief. So what did you notice about your response in round one? And did it change by round three? If it changed, what moved you? So, how we're going to do this is Ira and Coco volunteered to be here. So, thank you so much. We're going to have their responses. And then I am going to hold on. Let me see something. Do, 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 do. Nope, that's not working. I don't like that. Okay. So I was about to bring the chat up. So I'm just gonna scroll back. Well, no, don't. I'm not even gonna do that because I already know. So if you the two people on camera answer this question, and now everyone else put D1 for debrief question one, and then that's how we'll go forward. And then once we do that, we can go back and talk about what we said before. But specifically to this question, what did you notice about your responses in round one And did it change by round 3? If it changed, what moved that change? So, Coco or Ira?
Yeah, so in round one, what came to my mind was that the leadership team attempted to erase a human crisis by containment, not compassion. And I continued to feel that all the way through round three. And then what really landed was that they were focused on crisis, not community. Kim, I think you said those exact words. And that just went, it was all about containing a crisis rather than leaning into the compassion of how do I serve a human being.
I want to apologize if that's distracting, but I'm trying to get the best
You're
way
good.
so that people can see the question, and because I didn't like you just being over in the corner there. Exactly. Okay, so Ira, what do you have to say?
I don't think my response has really changed so much, but uh, uh, I definitely felt an instinctive, just a little repulsed by the reaction. And you summed it up in one of your slides that it's centering the organization, not the humans.
And think about how many times within organizations that happens. It doesn't have to be a crisis, right? It for me, what I found is the inability to deal with anything is what causes the crisis.
I think from the chat, it's really clear that it resonated with a lot of people. This is such common behavior that we're confronted with in the workplace.
And no one wants to talk about or at least have honest conversations about it, and that's what this work is. If we can't have honest conversations, how are you ever going to address racism? It's like, what? If you can't deal with this, how do you deal with the racist policies, the policies that are rooted in your organizations that are designed for your supremacy, that are designed um exploit others, or they're designed to that are coercive, that are designed to be discriminatory. So now nobody puts nobody puts Coco in the corner. I actually love this format. I just got to figure out, because with my ADHD and stuff, how to do it well. But I really like so let me, because I can bring questions up, like, I mean, responses up. See, exactly. I don't know if any if it if I I don't do well reading out loud. Just let people know that. I don't know if it I changed responses, but it did help me name things which I struggle with specifically. So I would really like to know what it helped you name. Um, every day right now we have to act like, yep, absolutely, and like we're not in a war or living in a dictatorship. It was the same thing that happened that really changed this work for me during the pandemic when George Floyd was killed. um it was, and also, but not to make it better or worse, but what really got to white people saw George Floyd as allyship. They didn't see connection to him. It was something horrible they couldn't fucking escape. They had to see it, and it triggered them. What really got white folks, what really changed my was January 6th, was because all of that was happening during the workday, and none of these goddamn organizations dealt with that at all. And so what I saw happening, I saw so many people in the tech space that I was in at the time just really not knowing how to process that, and really feeling anxious to the lead up to the inauguration. So I spun up a whole Discord server just so people could stay in that space during those hours if they needed some safe place to be. And no matter, because we didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. And it happens in little and small things all the time, and they just grow, they just make things worse. um let's see. Already very aware of how capitalism works and work in a large organization, so I was aware throughout the organization is only they're concerned. I'll have a conversation about capitalism, but not right now. That's a conversation for another day. Um, naming discomfort in humanity, etc. I often feel things but can't find the word, and that's why we need to do the practice, because that's the problem. White folks have never had to practice this stuff because it's always been either obfuscated from you, put aside so you don't see it, or when you did see it, you were not you were again cast as hero or victim. So you never had to deal with the consequences or even be held accountable or even look at the complicity in it. So this is what this work is. It is practice. That's why it's called the practice. This is opportunities for you to start developing those words, because we all have this moment where somebody says something and you're just like, whatever. And a few hours later, you know exactly what you should have said. This is preparing you for that moment. You're trolling Kim with that capitalism come exactly. And I'll actually mention something right here because nope, it's not about nope, it's not anti-capitalism. See, we're gonna take a detour because we have time. So I have a problem with people saying capitalism is the issue. Capitalism, it's because we're hyper capitalist. It's the capitalist system that's capitalism is a theory which talks about supply and demand, talks about a supply chain. Somebody makes something, the supply chain goes, and then you get to the customer. That is what capitalism is in theory. It's just about, instead of the state owning something, individuals get paid for their resources, all that stuff. What we have here is not capitalism. It's how we implemented capitalism in the United States and globally is the problem. It's not capitalism as an economic theory or as a social construct, because if you look at it, there is. Well, let me back up. Capitalism in this United States was implemented, and it had to justify the annihilation of indigenous people and the enslavement of Africans. That has nothing to do with how capitalism as a theory was talked about. That is the justifications of how we use it to exploit, to coerce, to discriminate. Because when Adam, what is his first name? John Adams? No. What is his name? Adam Smith. Lord have mercy. What people call the grandfather of capitalism. He didn't see women and black people or anything. He only saw a system of white men because that was what the system was. But he was an abolitionist. He didn't see annihilations of indigenous people and Africans, enslavement of Africans being a necessity, a part of how he was thinking about it. But also, remember, he was in Scotland, and Scotland benefited from slavery and indigenous. See, this is what people don't understand, because if you talk about, when people talk about socialist Democrats, communism, it's all rooted in white supremacy. Let's be honest. It's all rooted in white supremacy. So for me, I'm Dutch. We invented capitalism in order to facilitate exactly global. And so it was always about, it wasn't about the system, the logistical system of capitalism. It's always been about exploitation, coercion, colonialism. And so I say that because when you look at what people call socialism, you look at socialist countries like Sweden, and people say they didn't have racism. They definitely have racism. When you have a whole country full of white people, and so all the immigrants started coming in, and now you got a problem. So you have to have a triggering effect. So this is why I have a problem with fucking Bernie Sanders. Everybody thinks he's this. I don't fucking know. He marched back before I was born with black people. And so now I'm supposed to give a shit about that when he can't even talk about racism. Everything to him is class. I don't live in class system. I live in a racist system. Racism impacts me. I have no, even most wealthy Black people are still dealing with racism. It does not exclude that. So this is my issue when people talk about, oh, capitalism, we need to tear it down and replace it with what? That's what profit without oppression was. That's what my economic theory, profit without oppression, is about. To build, and this is where Life Beyond the Supremacy Myth came from, because it is about, can we have an economic system that is supremacy free, coercion free, discrimination free, and exploitation free? Fuck, I don't know, but I'm willing to try. I don't have the hubris of a white man that says this is what it is and this is the truth. That's not my world. My world is test, see, evaluate. If it works, standardize it. If it doesn't, what does it? Did I harm somebody? If I harm somebody, how do I make amends? How do I repair? That is a whole system that is not a part of how capitalism is functioning right now. Socialism, Democrat, communism, none of it. So when I say that we're trying to create a world that was never meant to exist, that is exactly what I mean. And I'm going to read this quote. All of ourselves and nothing for other people seems in every age of the world to have been the maxim of masters of mankind. Exactly. And that, he wrote the book, for God, before he wrote Wealth of Nations. He wrote a book, and I can't think of the title, but it's about values in economic. So when people, you bastardize shit and then make it the standard, and then people have a conversation and then get mad at me, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not buying that shit. I'm not buying it. And so when I say that everything that the United States has created and exploited around the world, including the Dutch and everything else, because they were here in the United States, it has been about and if you see it today, it has been about justifying the annihilation of indigenous people and justifying the enslavement of Africans. And we see it to this day. No system will work unless it's also exactly. And my thing is, though, with that, and this is where I'm gonna make a point. The anti-racism in this world comes first, because when you deal with that, the others you have space to deal with the others. Because you can be misogynist and white, ableist and white, queer phobic and white. If it is, I've seen white trans women go into black lesbians and black and brown lesbian spaces and wreak havoc, because they are prioritizing whiteness over their solidarity with this vulnerable community. And now you're in their space that they welcomed you in, and now you're causing harm, and now they have to protect themselves from you. Yep, that was it. The theory of moral sentiment.
One of the key phrases I've gotten from you, Kim, is distilling everything down to the myth of white male supremacy. And when you focus on that, everything else falls into place, I think.
And that is why I deal with white people, and exactly was why I was going to exclusively deal with white men, because white women weren't kind of coming to the thing. Because I was like, no one respects me in these rooms. You came here because you see me as an expert. Trump doesn't see me as an expert. Netanyahu doesn't see me as an expert. Keir Starmer doesn't see me as an expert. Hell, my governor doesn't see me as an expert. These are all white. They don't see me as an expert. So I need to train an army of white folks to actually come to be able to do this work, so that you're inside tearing it down, because I can't. So while you're tearing it down, we also need to be building up other things. And this is what this work is about, training you, giving you the practice. Again, you expect your child to go from flipping over to running. They need practice. And I don't see Josh always says this. And it's because as an educator, as a youth worker, all those years, I understand white men now. I really do. There's a level of compassion and grace that I never would have thought I could give white people, let alone white men. I definitely, I definitely understand that. I see now that you did not have the same upbringing that I did. You may have had money, you may have had affluence, you may have had, but what your white folks don't have is community. And that is what I'm trying to build. We cannot do any of this without community. Thank you for the detour into the nuance about class and economic theories in the it was yes, exactly. And so that's what a lot of the work is. It's about no you did not distract me. It was funny. But that is what this work is. It is about white people believe work in binaries. I live in the nuance. I can't live in if I did binaries, I would not be in this space. You have but your allegiance to binaries allows you to be complicit in white supremacy without you knowing about it, without you having to agree to it. It's not something you agree to, it's just who you are because it's a fish in water. Fish doesn't know it's in water until this comes out the water and starts fucking suffocating.
Kim, something that you said, and I found you on Threads. I'm so grateful for the boldness that you said, white women, this is for you, and I'm going to break it down so you can understand it. And what I had been missing in my own anti-racism journey was I was still causing harm because I hadn't done the work on myself. And that is something
And
that,
that's why you need a strong why.
yes, what's
That
your
is why
why?
you need the strong why. Because allyship, when you say you haven't done the work on yourself, it puts you outside. You're doing us a favor. You're not doing us a favor. You have to understand that you too. I would actually say, yes, black and brown people experience the physical harm of whiteness, but y'all psychological and mental harm for that shit. And you have no community to unpack that because at least if something racist happens to me, which I have a community who understands it, what I can unpack that with. I can go to my aunts who lived through Jim Crow. I can go through all of that, right? Y'all don't have anybody. And so when you're talking about this is one thing I also said. I remember when I was in when I was in course with Ira. I told him because they were most of the gentlemen there were in therapy and had white therapists. And I said, be very careful. I need you to be mindful. When you start having this conversation with someone who has not dealt with this shit or unpacked it, they are in a position of the expert. Now you're saying something that is going to challenge them. And they may weaponize that against you and cause you harm in the therapy session because they don't understand. Because what you're doing now is they are the expert, but you're now challenging their expertise and you're challenging that they have not done this work and that you're doing something that they're not doing. And because hero or victim, they have to weaponize it.
Could you talk a little bit about the courage that white women, you're saying white women, we've really got to lean into our courage? That really resonated with me. And then white men, it was a different C word, but I love
Right. Well,
that.
so white women need courage, and that's what white girl rehab is about. The communities I'm building, white girl rehab, is about that courage, developing that courage to stand in your truth, because so much of the myth. So you would never, if I say white supremacy, because I've gotten so used to it, but now it is. I understand very clearly it's the myth. You are not my. It is a myth. It has y'all fucking fooled. But what the issue is, the systems, institutions, and policies of white supremacy have, and if you do not believe this, just look at the web that has been exposed with this Epstein thing and how big it is. White supremacy has told white women and girls that we will keep you safe while targeting you for harm. And then when you speak up, it tells you you're wrong, that something's wrong with you. And so now you turn that anger into other people. That's why white women, that's why you're Karens, because I get it. I fucking see it now. You have, I came up with a thing and a term that when I was processing this stuff myself. Yeah, Spottable is a really good is a platform. I get a lot of feedback from there. And that's what I said. It's small but excellent. Oh shit! I just what the fuck was I talking about? White women. Epstein. Okay, so what? So oh yeah, I understand why you're Karens, because you have no control over anything else. Everything that's told to you that's supposed to be safe is not safe. I've never seen. I've talked to so many white women lately, and I recognize a level of harm that I've never experienced. I have never, and I'm not saying this is and doesn't happen in my community. Yes, we have horrible people in every community. But what I can tell you is there is no way in a black community, and I'm going to say this with all my full fucking chest. There's no way in a black community that you have a gang of people raping young girls and women and nobody in the community does nothing to kill the motherfuckers. That just ain't going to happen. It is not, it doesn't become doctrine from the fucking pulpit. Hell no. Yes, we have ministers who do, but they doing that shit in quiet. It's not you when there is no one is in that space. It's not the doctrine of the fucking faith or the no. I mean, I know someone who told me that they were being molested, went to the church and told the people, and the people kicked the family out. Ain't no way in hell that man would still be living. White folks don't have community, so white women need to get the courage. So I get why you flail the fuck out, because you've been targeted by the very people who told you to trust them. That's what I was about to say. I've trusted. I understand. I am, and this is I'm being careful here because again, trigger not being in an appropriate space to unpack that. But I've never felt unsafe around the men in my family at all, ever. Cousins, uncles, grandparents, never. Always felt that. I used to tell people a lot, you do some shit to me, you got my dad first, his brothers coming next, and my grandfather and his uncles coming after that. I recognize now what y'all have been made me believe that y'all had this great, y'all, oh my God, it is fucking disgusting how whiteness has treated you people, how it has used you, how it has exploited you, and how it has pitched you against people like me who have the historical, because of all the years of the ancestral trauma to help. Now, when it comes to white men, humility, y'all need to shut the fuck up and recognize you don't know shit. The bubble you're in is so fucking small. Like I had a conversation with a client the other day, and they were talking about, absolutely, they were talking about how they were doing they have a software company, and it was a question about Taiwan. Should that be in the drop down menu, or should it be Taiwan as a because China thinks they own it, all right? And so the whole team was having a back and forth conversation, and I actually was like, they made a decision, but the person they kept trying to make like, oh well, maybe we can make this exception, until they went back after that meeting and started doing research about Taiwan, and they were like, oh shit. I was like, yes, so much shit you don't know, because when they brought up that situation, I thought about Tibet, because it's the same, it's similar thing. That's why they don't want you educated. That is why they're going after Black women who are the most credentialed, because I say this all the time, Black women are the moral compass. What they fucked up and did was gave the moral compass access to not only a great education, but in the rooms with y'all and watching this shit inside out. And now you can call it DEI, you can take whatever, you can't take my degree. And people think that's, Black women are, I have over $400,000 in student loan debt just to get what I know. Who the fuck wants that? But without those papers, I couldn't even be in the rooms. So I need you to think about that. Again, when you're talking about capitalism and all this other shit, think about what minimum minimum barrier for some people to get in, and what's the minimum barrier for other people to get in spaces. And that's what this practice is. So let's move on to it's where the white cattiness comes. Exactly. Because and that's why this work is very much rooted in joy, pleasure, passion, and play, because you don't know any of that shit without it being rooted in competition, control, or sex. We don't do competition in this ecosystem. We don't do control in this ecosystem, and we definitely don't talk about sex, because y'all have bastardized the hell out of it. This is not a space to unpack how disgusting that is. So yes, it is why the cat, because it makes you I really have a level of compassion for the fact that you've been told that you're better than me, but your life doesn't look better than mine. I spent the last 3 years running out through all of my savings. And yet I sit here today with very little money, 400,000 plus in student loan debt, no health insurance, because my premium went from $30 a month to $1,400 a month. And I still know that I'm in better situation than most of y'all. Because I have a family that I have community. I have people I can talk to and unpack things with. Just look at Obama versus Obama had to exactly. He wore a tan suit and everybody had a fucking fit. This man is farting out decisions every day, and I'm supposed to exactly. So, let's see. Yeah, did it change? Nope. Hold on. I'm trying to change the. How do you do that? Oh, I learned something new. You have to click on it. So the next question is, was there a moment in the game where you wanted to respond but held back? What was happening in that moment? And Ira, Coco, you can respond whenever you want. And everybody else in the chat, and we'll do what we just did.
I don't think so. I think at this point I've gotten pretty good at just saying what I'm thinking.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I don't think there was a moment in this where I felt the need that I couldn't respond with anything that was going through my head.
And could that be? Is it because you've worked with me before, or?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Coco, you've not worked with me. This is your first encounter with the work.
Yeah. I felt some introspection. I've been on the leadership team that contained instead of showed compassion. And so I had to sit with that. And I was like, oh, I've actually been part of that harm. And we have to be able to name, I think we have to be able to name what we've done in order to work through it, figure out the next best step. Right. So for me, it's just, I have to feel safe to feel all emotions, not judge myself for them, and then be able to decide, okay, now that I have this information and now that I have the awareness, how can I do better and not cause harm as I move through this life?
And so I like this question. Holding back looks like not trauma dumping. I really want to address this because white people will. Oh my God. So if you have any Black women in your organization, I can tell you 100% that they know more about your life than you know about theirs. Because as soon as you white people meet somebody, they think, again, that supremacy, that we need to know everything about you, or we give a fuck. We don't. We don't. And that reality also causes you harm and also wants you to flip the fuck out because you're not being centered. When I don't know how many times, literally, I'm trying to think of, it just happened. Where was I? It was just so inappropriate. What the fuck was I? I was at. Mm, can't think of where I was. Oh, auto dealership, getting my oil changed, and the representative is a white woman. Why do I know she got a black husband? Why do I know she got a this? Why do I know she got a that? Why do I know that her daughter is da 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 da? In the time it took me to drop my car off, give her the keys, and go sit in the thing and wait for my car to get done. That's what y'all do. So it's a difference between trauma dumping and understanding when it's appropriate, the space is appropriate to hold that, and when it's not. And that is what y'all, it is everything you think and say because of supremacy, it needs to be expressed. It does not. And that doesn't mean that you're because if that's the case, black women in work would have a whole bunch of shit to say to y'all, but we know we can't. So also recognize that quietness doesn't mean compliant or I agree with you. It means sometimes I just don't give a fuck. You just gonna go ahead. I don't give a damn. Blow the place up. I don't care. Oh, okay. Yeah, you brought a thing. Okay, let's talk about this. I think trauma dumping sometimes comes from the emphasis on empathy. I like how Kim points to sympathy because being more important because you cannot empathize. Okay, so let's talk about this. This is another one of mine. I never use the word empathy because it is impossible. It is a theory that is fucked up in real world practice. You can never. There is none of you in this thing will ever know what it feels like to be me. And any assumptions you make about that cause harm. That is where the harm comes because you think you, again, going back to white men having humility, you think you know some shit. And because you don't, or you had a black friend who told you this thing, you now are I don't need your empathy when harm is being caused. I need you to be able to be compassionate and sympathize to stop the harm as it's happening right there. I don't need you to understand it. That's the problem because you trying to understand it, empathizing, that's again casting yourself as a hero or victim. I don't need you in that role. I need you to stop. I don't need you to understand. I don't, you shouldn't see. And that's what happens. You force people who are more vulnerable now to explain what the fuck, why they're being traumatized and all that shit. No, we ain't doing all that. There's no way in hell I know what it feels like to be Coco. I don't give a damn how close we ever get. I don't know what it feels like for my cousin who's had cancer 4 fucking times. I have no idea what that feels like. But when I hold space for her, I don't have to know how it feels. I have compassion and I sympathize with what the fuck she's going through. You don't need empathy. It's impossible.
I'll just mention real quick. When I remember you talking about this before I knew you, before I'd worked with you personally, and this idea was one of the things that I really had a hard time with at first. I really kind of,
You thought I
uh,
was talking bullshit. Yep, go ahead.
yeah. It rubbed me the wrong way. It bothered me. I disagreed, uh, and it took me some time to sit with it and really think through it before I realized that you were right, and I just needed to rethink certain things. And I mentioned that just in case anyone else watching this is having similar thoughts or similar reactions to anything, you know, disagreeing with something Kim says is usually my first sign that I'm onto something important.
And it's designed that way. You have to understand, this is 30 years of experience. This is me going on this journey because I wasn't finding answers or words from traditional shit because it was all rooted in the bullshit. And and again, you have to understand, I'm pushing. I come at you at 10 because the most marginalized people in your life come at you as a 2 and you act like a fucking 10. It's not. So I come at you so you get used to it. So when they tell you to back the fuck off, you're like, oh, okay, I can back the fuck off and not take it personally because you've had that experience. You've been in strategic. You did it in a space that was safe enough for you to feel that like, fuck, no, we don't give a shit. If white people really understood how, if you looked at social media, you would think that's all we think about is y'all, because that's all y'all think about is us. We out dancing, flapping fans. Y'all got something to say about that. We at the cookout doing what we y'all got something to say about that. We at the concert doing that. Y'all got something. We getting degrees. Y'all got something to say about that. It's y'all got something to say about every fucking thing we doing, and we don't give a fuck about y'all. And that's another fear is um that's another fear, that white folks think that black people are gonna do what you've done to us for generations. White supremacy stripped your humanity from you. It never gave us ours, but we held our own. We have our own humanity. We don't need the myth of white supremacy to bestow our humanity to us. You need to reclaim your own humanity, because that is what the myth of white supremacy stole from you, your humanity. And I love this. White folks assume that their experiences, and also Max, I don't know if you're white, but I'm looking at your picture. You look white. I don't need you to put there. You need to put you, us. You're a part of that. Do not separate yourself from whiteness. That's another thing you get to do. You get to step outside of whiteness and then say blackness is identity politics. No, bitch. It's all identity politics. So when you're talking, when you're saying things, that's why you're not an ally. Allies don't work. You got to be a co-conspirator. You have to see that your best interests are tied to everybody else's best interests. And when you find yourself stepping outside of that, I need you to say, oh, what am I missing? Right now, I'm stepping outside of that, and I'm stepping firmly into the myth of white supremacy. Oh yeah. Josh said I've provided opportunities to sit in discomfort. I remember I did during right after George Floyd, I did being anti-racist. I spun up a course because I saw all white people running to other white folks to talk about racism. I was like, what the living fuck? If y'all don't get the fuck out of here with that damn white fragility bullshit, that book gave y'all a language to talk about this shit, but did not hold you accountable for changing your damn behavior. So what you end up doing is weaponizing the language when you find yourself in, oh, that's just my fragility. Get over your fragility, bitch. Everybody fragile. You ain't special. So I spun up this course in the middle of that, and Josh volunteered to be on screen with me, and boy, and I love and he still volunteers. Think about that. He has a strong why. He keeps coming back. He doesn't see me as the enemy. He sees me as the person who provides wisdom for him, insight into things he can't understand. And I hope I'm articulating that appropriate for you, Josh. Oh yeah, he said, "Oh, oh wait a minute, where is it?" Yeah, and we were live. And he was in Sweden, and he was talking about, racism in the eyes, like yeah. So that's what I'm here for. Think of me. I literally have said, I recognize, again, we use this exact analogy of the child not being expected to walk fast. What I learned in kindergarten, what most women learn in kindergarten, white boys didn't have to learn, right? You didn't have to learn to play well. You didn't have to learn it. And then the things that I had to learn that white women didn't have to learn is something different. So I say, see me as your kindergarten teacher. And over time, through this ecosystem, over the years, you'll go to elementary school, and you'll go to middle school, and you'll go to high school, and you'll end up in college. And that when you end up in college is where we're now building shit. We're building the stuff that we need. And so I'm just pulling. I'm reading these because I'm not reading them beforehand. So my mentor talked about about she lost the most of her well, my mentor talked about she lost the most white relationships after joy. Yep, once she actually started correcting them. They wanted to talk about things that had exactly. And so that's what people were looking for. They were going to Robert DiAngelo. They were going, and that's not even her book's not even anti-racist. It's a sociology book. This is one reason that I push back on Ibram Kendi. His book, I love Stamp from the Beginning, which is a history book. His racism book is flawed. And when we did with my old podcast, we did I was doing Cause a Scene. That was my old work. And we were doing that, reading that book as a part of the book club. And when I saw that in the introduction, I was like, okay, people, let me be honest with you. We ain't got to that section yet, but something tells me I'm gonna have a problem with the fact that he's saying that black people can be racist. This is gonna be problematic for me. And then we got to that section, I was like, and this is the reason why this shit's gonna be used against them. And as you've seen in the CRT conversation, in these DEI conversations, people are quoting this black man who's a scholar. Your shit does not work in real world. That's what people need to understand. There's a difference between theory and there's a difference between practice. This is practice work. I don't speak about anything that I have not experienced or taken somebody else through to experience. And so now, forever, there's an anti-racist book that white people will continue to use that says that black people can be racist. And now that justifies the conversations that are having now that white people are being discriminated against and the white genocide and all that other shit. So let me say this clear because no one has said this yet. And I'm going to say this very clearly. All white people are racist by design. There is no little bit of racist. There is no, was that a racist? I'm not having them conversations. All I need to know, are you a white racist who is interested in building a consistent, demonstrated anti-racist behavior so that you can counter every time them impulses come up, every time that thought comes in your head, or are you full on falling into the white supremacy thing? That's all I need to know. I'm never going to have a conversation with a white person telling me something they're not racist. Bitch, if you don't get the hell out of my face. So that is why this work I do is other people find it challenging because I'm saying things that other people aren't saying. And until we have these conversations, nothing fucking changes. And I'm sick of this shit. No other generation should have to do this shit. My ancestors did this. I'm the first generation of desegregation. The last law was signed in 68. I was born in 69. In one generation, the shit is upended. Not only did affirmative action and civil rights benefit other marginalized groups, women, other people, black people from other countries, other brown people from other countries, LGBTQA plus community, more than it benefited black folks. But now you're blaming us for benefits that we didn't even benefit from. I've had some sessions like this with author of an excellent book, White Innocence. It was in a really thank you for, okay, great. Let me, I don't like the word passive here because racism is not passive. It's designed to make you think it's passive. Your behaviors may be passive, but they're only passive because you're designed to be ignorant of them. So there's nothing passive about racism. Yep, exactly. But the last part, not being actively bigoted, does see, that's what I'm saying. See, this is where you're playing with words. Racism and bigotry are not the same thing. White people are racist. I can be bigoted, I can be prejudiced, but I have no institutional power. I have no ability to change anything. Actually, every system, institution, and policy that was designed to keep me. Let's be honest. A lot of the people in this administration would love to have love would have loved if Black people would not exist at this point. If everything they've done to us, we would be extinct. That's what they like. That's what they want. So again, this is not about blaming. So I'm happy everybody's putting these questions. I'm happy you feel safe enough to say this, because these corrections that I'm saying are not about embarrassing you, and not about making you feel guilt or shame. It is about giving you the tools you need so that you can stop breeding the next generations of racists, of white supremacists. I'm sick of white people breeding white supremacists. That's the only reason we have them now, because the adults are too ignorant to understand what the systems are. So let's go to the next one. What is the one thing? I'll take this. What is the one thing playing this game made visible about how you currently show up in your organizational community that you were not expecting to sit with? Hold on, before we do that, I did want to address Coco saying that she was actually one of the people who was in that position. I do want to address that. Because this question came from somebody who was in that position, who did not feel good about what they were charged to do. It's understanding. First of all, this is why the guiding principles are what they are. Lack of inclusion is a risk and increasingly a crisis management issue. And when you don't have people making the decisions about the potential harms that an organization can be inflicting on people that they may not be communicating, then you default to something like that. So at the end of this, I'm going to give you a scenario how I would have addressed it. So, all right. So this question is, and if I don't remember that, somebody please remind me that I was going to give it, because I didn't think it's not a slide, and I didn't think about it until we were in this, and I was like, yeah, I need to give how I would work this out. What is the one thing playing this game made visible? Okay, so there we go. Yep, racism is not about people; it's about systems, institutions, and policies that facilitate racism, that facilitate discrimination, that facilitate and that's where people get the hiccup, because white people only are allowed to be individuals. Everybody else gets to be a group. Like, I have to represent my whole Black people, and you only get to represent you. So you're not used to this. You need to get in. No, you're representing everybody. And that includes the systems, institutions, and policies that benefit you. Do I as a leader consider all the people, not just the person in crisis? I honestly don't think I do. Yeah, at least not deliberately. That's a huge problem, because if, let's just say you're on a team. Let's say it's a softball team, right? Well, soccer, that's international. Somebody here might be from international and they don't know what the so softball team, I mean a soccer team. And one of your players is in a position. Now, I don't know soccer positions. Okay, I'll just say goalie, because everybody know what the fucking goalie is. All right, so the goalie is ineffective at keeping the ball out the goal. Now there could be many reasons. It could be something sustained that's happening over a time that you really need to address. It could be an injury. They could be sick. There could be a number of things. But whatever those things are, the fact that this motherfucker can't keep the ball out the goal is impacting the whole team, impacting the fans, impacting everybody. And that's why you need to think of this. Stop thinking as white supremacy. The myth of white supremacy has y'all thinking in silos. You have to think in systems. If you eat something that your body says you shouldn't, it impacts the entire system. Whether you knew it was unhealthy or unwise or not, it still impacts the system. Your system doesn't need Shut the hell up. Football is called football. I was trying to get away from that because we have a different name. We have a different thing for football, damn it, Josh. Crisis management procedures are written by white folks for white people, by privileged white people for they will simply not exactly. They will not, but they don't even serve the interests of the white people they're for you to understand. They don't even benefit you. What is this one? When I was in leadership position, I thought a lot about psychological safety and did not demonstrate those I did not demonstrate those conversations. It didn't occur to me that was the work or psychologically. And this is why I hate organizations talking about we're a family. Do you know how fucking dysfunctional people's families are? This is something I was about to say and I forgot off track, but I came up with I used to say this term so much and now I see how evident it is in white communities. I say family is the first place we learn to call abuse love. And if that is not whiteness and the myth of white supremacy in a nutshell, that is what it is. Told you it's family, and it's forced you to call that harm that's inflicted on you as American rugby. as something of value, of something you deserve. Like even the whole religious stuff is about the same thing. It is about, because I've studied comparative religions, because I'm just that curious person. And every religion that I've studied, before you put the doctrine on it, before you put the stuff that makes it sustainable, they all talk about love. Now, every single one of those men, though, were misogynistic as fuck. But that was the time, right? Women have always been subjugated. And it goes back to when I say Adam Smith, when he was talking about capitalism, he wasn't talking about slaves or women. They didn't consider us. And yet, even in those conversations, he was talking about compassion and sympathy. And this is another reason why I did. I think Josh took it. I created a management course because I realized that there is no management training now. You're expected to either spend a whole bunch of money to get an MBA, because they don't do in-house training anymore. So they throw you in a situation where you're supposed to be handling all these different issues with people and their mental states and all kinds of shit, and you have no capacity to do that, plus get your job done.
I talk a lot about how people are great operators. They're great at their job. And so we promote them to people manager and we give them no skills to
Oh my God, if that's not the entirety of tech and that we're always trying to code out the human part. And now again, with LLMs, they realize you cannot code out the human. But because you're so ill-equipped at dealing with humans, that is the first thing you want to get rid of. Like when I first got with this one client, I remember when I first got into tech in 2014, everybody was talking about flat organizations. I was like, this shit is not going to work because the organizational structure is not the problem. Some people need to be held accountable. Tasks need to be done. Someone needs to be held accountable for getting those tasks done. There needs to be a hierarchical thing. It has nothing to do with the organizational structure. But because you don't understand about power and privilege and those things, you put it into, yes, leadership is a separate skill. And there's so many people who do not know how to do it. And just because you can code does not need to don't need to be touching customers. You don't need to be touching none of this shit. Actually, I would say you don't even need to be in the organization, because this is what the problem is. And this is giving you some lessons here. This is why I do not like the term tech, people using tech as technical and everybody else is non-technical. Bitch, I'm not non-technical. I did that talk for several of those talks for all of 2016 and 2017. I don't do non-technical talks. You can't do what I do, and I don't want to do what you do. We all have a level of technical. Your skill is technical in technology. I'm skilled in organizational change and human behavior change. That's what and building communities. That's what I know how to do. That's what I'm technical in. And so when we ascribe terms like technical to certain people, that's again supremacy. Because how many times have developers thought they were better than HR or sales or marketing because they can code a thing? You don't understand how this business works at all. All you know how to now, how the hell are you coding a thing and you don't even know how the business works? Big problems, big problems. Which on a thing I plan to address. So, let me see what we got here. I'm just pulling this up. Come to think of it, I still don't know how to demonstrate those conversations in this example here. If there's aren't already psychological. Yep, there's no. Yep, that's it. That's it. Thank you. That is it. And so many people swear just because they put family on it or have the picture with black people or the Latino person in it, that mean no. Welcoming and psychological safety is a skill. Being able to establish that and maintain it is a skill. People don't have it.
And it's not something you can just declare. It's something people have to believe over time.
It is a consistent, demonstrated practice. Everything I'm talking about is if I can't see it as an educator, as a youth worker, I know the people, because I worked in school, out of school. I know if there's something I want to be able to see that they've learned, the best way for them to show me is to teach it to somebody else. You explaining something to me, you may test well. That's why I never liked, and I'm couldn't offend some people. I never had everybody falls all over the AP kids and the honors kids. Those kids got on my fucking nerves because all they knew how to do was take tests. If it wasn't for fucking answers to a question, they was lost. The world is not a fucking multiple choice test. They have no grit. None. You've taken the friction out of everything. You've taught these kids that every solution has four possible every problem has four possible solutions. And if you can eliminate two, you're 50% there. That is not the real world. So hold on. I think hold on, let me see something. I'm just trying to. Yep, let me stop. Okay, so let me tell you how I would debrief this, how I would have handled this situation. First of all, the email came to 10 people. I would want to know why this person sent to 10 people. What were they trying to? Because again, I was that kind of educator who I didn't give a shit about the kids who were quiet who were always like the raise my hand kids. I know my brain don't shut off. I was dealing with that. I want to know what that motherfucker sitting in that corner not saying nothing doing. What he thinking about? What they thinking about? Because I know my brain don't shut off. I need to hear you. Are you getting it? Are you angry? I mean, I just need to understand that. But in this myth of white supremacy, quietness equals compliance. I agree. That is not it. Just because I might not feel safe enough to say anything. And that's what usually happens to marginalized people in your organizations. When they stop talking, that's when your warning sign is. Because now they're documenting and they're getting ready to get the hell out of there. And if the place catches on fire, they're not even going to spit on it. They're going to get the hell up out of there. And they're going to take your clients and and some of your good employees. So I would like to know. So there's some different things. Did everybody get it together at the same time? And what I mean, when they got it, was there a mass discussion, or did I see it first and then I? So there's a whole bunch of things that I would need to know before I even address this at all. Then I would go to that individual. First of all, are you safe? Period. Do you need to call 911 because we are not able to handle this shit? If it's not, do you need to have a 72-hour hold? I don't know what the hell the issue is. You could just be upset because again, somebody might have just passed away that you don't know. But to go into the automatic processes without knowing all that, that means you don't even know if they're what they mean. So once I've gauged, but and that takes practice, because you may end up, it's going to cause you to walk into something that you're not prepared to hold. So let me give you an example. When I was a teacher, I am a mandated reporter. This is why I still to this day do not work with people under 18 years old. I'm a mandated reporter. If something it was called the hot potato. If some kid mentioned abuse or something to your ass, it was a hot potato. You need to get that shit out of your hand and get it to the right people right away, because you don't want to be held accountable. You don't want a student to leave that school and told you they were in harm and you let them go. So it's the hot potato effect. So I was that person. I'll give you an example. I have lived a life. I was walking, getting ready, had my bag on my shoulder, about to walk out to go to lunch, walk past this student, she looked normal. So I said, hey, hey, I'm walking. And I said, hey, how you doing? Or something like this, something benign. And she just said, yeah, I'm thinking about committing suicide. What? Okay, now I got to stop every fucking thing. I can't go to lunch. I can't do shit. Now, unlike a lot of teachers who, again, like to abdicate, they would send them straight to the counselor's office. That was not what I did, because of the practice I've had. I need to gain as much information as possible, because I don't know if I'm handing this person off to the counselor and they're going to tell everything or whatever. If they felt safe enough to tell me just passing in the hall that they felt that they were about to commit suicide, I need to deal with that. Now, and then I tell them straight up front, there are some things I can keep confidential, but as a mandated reporter, there's some shit I can't keep to myself. And I'm going to let you know that up front. And you can tell that employee that, because now, depending on what this shit is, it could be a risk manager. They could be ready to come blow up the building. We need to know that shit. So once I made sure they were safe, they were not in immediate harm's way, then you can back up and you can deal with everything else. Then you can alert HR. I got this information from this person. This is what they're dealing with. I know you have services. Connect. The other 10 folks, we got to have a conversation. I don't have to disclose this person's personal shit to be able to hold space for these people who are feeling like, what the fuck is going on? Is this somebody I care about and something's happening and I can't? That needs to be addressed. It's not erase, delete, and move on. But that is what the myth of white supremacy does. Think about in every day, something happens to you. You're not allowed to process it. You're supposed to just deal with it and move on. And that's how I would deal with it. And I would keep that door open until those 10 people feel safe. I would do individual, and I would do small groups, and maybe a bigger group with that person, if that person is ready to share all of that stuff, because they brought these people in and they need to be held accountable to those people. You caused this. You need to understand what this is. So if you have this issue in the future, how best to do it so that we're not all impacted. Because it's reciprocity. Community is this is why white people don't. Community is reciprocity. It's not about what you can exploiting. It is when people in the community can't pay rent, we all get together and we have a fish fry so we can raise their rent. If somebody can't get home in time to pick up their kid from school, somebody in the community goes to pick their kid up from school. That's what we do. But that work, like the one of the posts said, has to happen before these things happen. And most organizations don't even have the processes, procedures, and policies in place, let alone When shit like this happen, they're flying by the seat of their pants. They're making this shit up as they go. Or they're leaning too heavily in legalese, trying not to make the company liable. And there's a fine line between that. Bottom line, if you don't make those individuals feel safe, you've lost it all. Because let's say if this was a Karen who did this, who always likes to be centered, and she sent this out just because she wasn't getting enough attention and no one cared, and she's upset, that needs to be dealt with. That's different than I'm being abused at home and I just don't feel, you know what I'm saying? And that's something different. And so that's why you need to understand that. But you need to have the skills to be able to understand how to get that information so that people feel safe enough for you beforehand. And that's what good managers do. I'm not your family. I'm not above you or below you. I'm here to manage your skill, your roles and responsibilities. That's it. I'm here to and how you show up impacts how I manage your roles and responsibilities. And that is how this work is done. It's not perfect, but we have no model for this. So we got to go out here and try to make this shit up. But if at the root of everything you're doing is rooted in supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free, with the understanding that you will make mistakes and you know how to apologize and make amends, we will do better. You will get that practice. Other people who are scared of this work will see the benefit. We'll see how it helps them, and they would get on board right now. Because right now, I just seem like the crazy black woman who's just angry all the time, just because I bring up race all the time. And I'm like, I don't care. Shit used to bother me. It doesn't bother me now because I'm like, you don't know. I get it. You're the baby. Why am I having a cognitive level conversation with a person who don't even have their teeth yet? What are we doing? What are we doing? So, I'm going to take you to if you can go off camera. So I'm gonna do these slides and we can wrap things up. All right. So, so these are specifically, so I want to talk, these are specific questions about this experience of this chat format. I want your feedback, chat. So if you could just put chat as a part of at the beginning of your response to these questions. What was it like to respond only through chat, no audio, video? And do like chat 1, chat 2, chat 3. Then I'll know. What did that make easier? What did it get in the way of? At any point during the game, did you lose the thread of where you were or what you had written? If so, what would be helpful, and moving forward? And number 3, if you were to play the game again in this format, what one thing that would make the chat only experience feel more connected to what was happening in the room? So I really am trying to figure out from you who just experienced this, what this chat experience is. So you two could come back on. I just wanted to. So any questions, comments? I mean, anything for you there on those 3 questions? Yeah. Okay, so thank you for getting. Hold on, let me scroll up to it because they started coming in all at once. Okay. Chat 1, I would definitely prefer being able to respond by voice or even by camera. See, that's the problem. I could do this with Zoom, but having I never know how many people are going to show up, and having those windows don't work for me. There's too much visually going on. So if someone can come up with another way of doing this, because what I can't, because just like their guest, what I could, because what one thing I thought about doing was putting the guest link in there in the chat, and if you wanted to come up like on stage, you could do that. um that's something we could do. I like the chat experience. It gives me more space to think than if I had to answer out loud. Okay. I don't type as fast and was consistently. Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. And that's why I was taking time. But I want to thank you for responding, even though you don't, because I know that can be a blocker for some people. You know, you freeze up, you get triggered. So thank you for continuing to move forward. That was my thing, because if you take too long, people lose, but you don't take enough time. I was trying to do a minute between. Um, so that's something to think about. I love the no video audio. It helps me focus. Yeah, the chat went fast though, and it's a bit hard to juggle during. Yeah, and so because even when I felt like I did, if I put it here, it's over people's faces, and so I don't. I need to figure out how to. I don't know. It'll work itself out. All right. So here's another one. Answering felt fine, but knowing that there were others who were answering made it a little tricky to take in what everyone else was saying. Yeah, it could be. I could see that being quite overwhelming. That was another reason why I wanted to put. I realized we need to put like label them so that people can go back. Because what I did when I did this last time, I shut off the comments. I don't think I'm going to shut off the comments this time because it's an unlisted link. I think I'm going to wait like a week and people can go back and you can respond of it. What I don't want, and let me explain why I do it this way. That may be helpful as well. It's the same reason Josh vets my stuff. I can't do public. I cannot create a welcoming and psychological safe space for you if there are people trolling, if there are people in here just being you know what I'm talking about, malevolent, and if there are people in here being racist, because I get it all the time. I can't focus when somebody's calling me a nigger in the chat. I just it's not working. So that is one of the reasons I do it this way, because it's YouTube. I have no control, and this is why I want to build. We got to build our own community, because doing stuff out in public, no one really gets what this work is by how I kind of, because even when I was doing the stuff with white women during February, I rarely responded because I don't respond. I've learned not to respond in public because it not only makes me a target, but it makes the person I'm trying to have a conversation with a target as well. And so that's just the tricky part about this work, is how to be able to do it so that people that the same or similar sense of welcoming and psychological safety I can create inside a closed space, that I can also, what does that look like in an open space? I'm a visual written person, so the chat was good for me. Stay with the fine. Okay. All right. I found it quite overwhelming to let the audio sink in, read the slides, write my responses, all within this very limited time constraint. And the thing is, because it's a game, I don't want to give you the questions ahead of time, because what white people will do, because you're so used to being perfect or trying to be perfect, you will spend the whole time trying to put a whole dissertation together beforehand, getting the questions right, and there's no right or wrong. So that's why I don't do that.
We've never done that to you before.
Yes. Okay, so that was, at what point did you the thread? Okay, yes. I did lose a thread at times. Sometimes like Slido, something like Slido could help. Okay. All right. Josh, I'm gonna task you with looking that up then, buddy.
I think someone already said this, but being able to pull the chats up is excellent. Like what you're doing right now is really helping to bring it all together.
And that's why I like this, and I do enjoy. That's where it goes back to when you were asking me when we were testing yesterday. What's the difference between why I'm using this with YouTube? Because you can't do this with YouTube. You have to be able to inside enough platform to. So for people who don't know, we're streaming from a platform called Restream that does a live stream to YouTube, Facebook, and all these other things. Um, and so I couldn't do the slides. I couldn't do anything the way I want if we didn't have that. This could be way more fancy. I'm just basic right now. I enjoyed it. It helped with social anxiety. It was a little hard to juggle reading. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to pace that better. Um, chat one. The chat was hard to keep up with, but I like the only presenters on stage. Yeah, on screen. Let's go here. Hold on, wait a minute. Very good. When I did lose my place, I was able to scrub backwards in the feed. Yeah. Also, while can you see my pin tweet? I mean, my pin. Lord have mercy. Chat. Pin post in the chat. It wouldn't be if Ara and Coco are not on YouTube, you wouldn't be able to see it. It should be pinned at the top of the
I'm
page.
not seeing. I'm looking at YouTube also. I'm not seeing it.
It's not pinned at the top because I pinned it. It should be okay. All
I'm not
right.
saying it's
So
not there, but I'm not seeing it.
no, I'm on here and I don't see it either. So it said it pinned, but it didn't. Okay, so I'll just drop it again when it's ready. Okay, no big deal. I was trying to be um efficient, and doesn't seem like that worked. Okay, but that's fine. So let me go back to where I was. And I do okay. Scroll back. Okay, now we go here. I had trouble knowing exactly what's the answer on a few, but overall was good. Okay. Writing automatically starts engaging the editor in my head, so less comes out. Yeah, 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 yeah. As this at the same time, there's not enough time with even a handful of people to speak. Yep, in real time, and that's the thing. Okay, I'm what is this one for three? Maybe a whiteboard collaborative experience. Okay. Poll answer when everyone, perhaps a poll per question when everyone asks. Say more about that, Elizabeth. Because most polls don't give you a space to put anything, right? You have to have like a selection, but then that's another software. So if it's something somebody needs to tell me what that is, because it's not in Restream. You can't see the now. I can't. What, you can't see the questions? Say more about that, because I need to. Let's see. What I mean by whiteboard are tools like Zoom. Yeah. So again, we're not going to use Zoom because I could use Zoom webinar, but that's so far out of my budget, and that I'm not doing that. I'm not making money off this yet, so I'm not. I'm not. That's another thing I'm not doing that I was doing in the past. I'm not fully funding this anymore. This is for white folks to do. You either fund it or you don't. I'm gonna keep moving forward. The expectation that I shouldn't get paid, or I hate how people act like, oh, it's no problem for a developer to ask for $200,000 a year, but me doing the work to hold space, create communities, and keep people safe and all that is worth something that should be measured by the hourly wage. Yeah, we're not doing that. So I'll think about. We won't do this again until June. So hopefully we'll have something figured out about this. This is our first time doing it. Let's see. Anybody else has any? The thing I like about real-time whiteboarding experience is the visual space for participants to add content. People add sticky notes, comments, and Yeah, that's gonna be hard when you're trying to see. That's a thing when you're live streaming on YouTube. That limits a lot of things. And YouTube is I'm trying to keep the free stuff as accessible as possible, so that people don't have to outside of registering for the unlisted link, they don't have to do anything else. Um, all right. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there, and then let's go. What's next? Any other questions, comments, concerns? So I'm gonna drop this link in here again since it did not take. And this is if you want to do. Mm, all right. So this is a page for what's to take next steps. Um, and you could do there's the newsletter. There is the photo project that I didn't talk about that's coming up for that's coming up for. So let me explain when it says seasons, what people understand. I work in seasons. I cannot work 12 months a year. This does not work for me. I work for 6 months and I'm off the rest of the rest of the year because I need time to process, think, and prepare for the next season. So think about it as as if it was if it were a so think about it as if it were a theater company that has a season, a ballet company that has a season, even hell, basketball and sports have seasons. So this is how we do this work. So my season starts at the end, right before the end of May, and goes to the beginning of December. And for this season, I will be writing my next book. I will be um okay, that's fine. Um I will be writing my next book. I will be working on the next thing that we have that to build. We're going to start building is I'm going to do an open source project. I have always wanted to how open source projects are done. I just and because need to build our own shit, we're going to have the life before supremacy lift open source project, and this year is just taking in information. What would a community look like? What does it need to have before we build anything? And then, but the photo project is the one project that is the one project that allows you to practice your strong why, but no, practice seeing. If practice, it's going to be helping you practice to see. So that's on that sheet, as well as if this experience did anything for you, if you really if something shifted in this work today, please leave a message, a testimonial there. It gives me insight, and also it's proof that this work works so that I can share it on social. Because having 14 people show up does not make a movement that needs to change and challenge and dismantle the myth of white supremacy. We need thousands of people in this movement. And then the last thing is if you want to help the game. So what I'm going to be doing with this game is creating a database of these scenarios that people can actually, you can do it from your company can do it, your community can do it, and you can pull. My goal is to have a database where you can search certain things and you can pull those questions, and then you can have facilitate this in a group of your own once we get to that point. So that's that. Are any questions, comments, concerns? I'm coming back to see anybody put any questions, comments, concerns here. I don't see any. So, and I just talked about this. Season opens May 27th and goes to December 4th. The photo project opens in June. And actually, I want to share with you how I want to share with you how I think about things. So let me do something right quick because I want to share with you how I came up with my pricing transparency. So I'm going to put this in the chat so you can see the things that I have to think about for this work. So let me, can I share my screen? You can stop this. And I'm going to share my screen. I can do that right here. Pricing transparency. Okay. All right. So okay, never mind. So let me go there and scroll. So the pricing transparency is important to me because I always felt that people make prices and they're just random, right? They're just arbitrary. And so I really wanted to think about what pricing transparency look while making this as accessible as possible. So is this scrolling? Yep, you can see it. Okay. So this gives you some background about the work, but this is the structure. There are 3 rates. There's the real rate. This is what I get paid an hour. This is what I get paid for a retainer. But that's for my organizational advising, business strategy, and profit without oppression work, which I haven't done in 3 years because I've been in a fog. But if I was doing this at a community rate, it would be $3.75 an hour. But for life Beyond Supremacy Myth, I'm doing this is the eco-specific rate. So it's $200 an hour, and this is what I get paid for speaking. And because I want to ensure that more people are able to benefit from this, I created a pricing model. So there's a reduced price model, and I am not policing this because this is your conscience and your commitment to consistent demonstrated behavior. But the reduced price is for those whom the set price is too much. So it's usually going to be, if it's $100, it'll be maybe, it depends on how much work I put into something. It may be 50% off. It may be 25% off, whatever it is. But the privilege rate for those people who can pay and want to and know that they need to make up the gap between the reduced and the set price. So the newsletter is $10 a month for everyone. The photo project privilege, if you can pay $200, you pay $200. If you can pay just the set $150, that's fine. If you can only pay $100, that's fine. I'm not vetting you. And that was one thing I hated about when I was in doing all these conferences, when they would give you the scholarships. I shouldn't have to embarrass myself it's such a gross thing to have to tell strangers that you can't pay for something in that way. It's not that because then people think you can't. There's a whole bunch coming from a Black community. It's just so gross to have to tell white people you can't pay for something, right? And I have to be honest, if it wasn't for scholarships, I wouldn't have gotten to be able to travel the world like I have for tech because I didn't have the money. Like right now, if I'm speaking, they have to pay for me because I don't have it yet, right? So no one should have to tell you that, particularly if you're talking about you want to be more inclusive, you just remove as many barriers as possible. Like one of the huge barriers I used to have, and I hate it when people do conferences, and they ask, they don't think about like they'll give you the free ticket, right? And they might probably pay your hotel, but they don't tell the hotel not to ask you for a credit card, right? So they can charge you shit. No, you can't do that. You can't. What if they don't have a credit card? What if the only credit card they have or the money they have is they're going to eat on because you didn't provide food, but now the hotel is holding that hostage? There's so many things that need to be thought about when you're talking about inclusion. There's so many things that you need to be talking about when you're talking about supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free that people don't think about, and that make a huge difference in the products and services and the things that you're doing, particularly in community. So I wanted to just show you that so you can see the levels of things that I'm thinking about. There's also another thing on that website that is if you scroll to the bottom, I have a community charter because I don't do a code of conduct anymore. And I have a thing at the bottom that says gender and this work. So I said I have white dude rehab and white girl rehab. What happens to people who are non-binary, trans, and gender non-conforming? So I had to think about that, right? It's not a perfect solution, but it was something I had to consider, and I had to write up because I wanted to be transparent. It's a living document. It will change as I learn, but that is what I've created. So we have 5 minutes. Anybody, my two guests can come back on if they have any final words. Anybody have any final words they want to say? I really thank y'all for really coming here and hanging out with me for 2 hours. I love doing this shit. I could talk about this all day. I am born to solve these kind of problems. Oh yeah, so Josh also paid for me. He used his whatever money they gave him to hire me to help him with some stuff that he was doing. So that's what I'm talking about. That is a co-conspirator. He makes sure I get paid. He makes sure I'm supported. I don't need people talking about they my allies. You're not helping me. So any questions, comments, concerns that you have, Ira or Coco?
Just thank you for setting this all up, doing everything you do, and thanks to everyone who is in the chat for joining.
Ditto. Thank you for holding space.
Yeah, and that's that and that is what I was born to do this. It is something I'm good at. I understand. It is my neurodivergence. It is my superpower. It is my superpower. And because I'm able to see the forest and the trees. Even though those personality tests that you do at work are rooted in eugenics and all that crap, they never got me because I was always balanced. I was always in two things at once. They were like the Breyers Mig. What is it called? Breyers Mig. Myers Briggs. I got the B and the M mixed up. The Myers Briggs. I always was balanced. I can always find the balance. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm really happy. I really hope at the very least you get the newsletter. I want to have 500 people sign up to the newsletter by the end of this year. That is my goal. Because if I can do 500 people sign up, I am comfortable. I can be comfortable and do this work without having to worry every month about paying my bills. Because this work needs to be done, and it needs to be done from a place of empowerment, of a place of abundance.
This went to some weird places.
Woo! Josh. But I love that. That's what this work has to be. It has to be fun. You cannot do something this heavy and it not be fun, right? You not infused. And that's where, again, whiteness messes you up because everything has to be serious. And no, that's why you see Black people dancing with fans. You have to have fun in this work. It's hard. You need the mental break just to be. All right. If that's it, I am so full. Thank you for trusting me and showing up, because this was 2 hours on a Saturday that you didn't have to be here. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Just watch out for other things that are coming, because my brain is like boom, boom, boom. I'm ready now. I'm so ready. I'm on fire. All right. Thank you.